Hey Whipple, Squeeze This, by Luke Sullivan. Picture this: a cozy suburban kitchen bathed in morning light. Just off to the side, there's a laundry room with a basket overflowing with fresh clothes. Then, something moves. A little pink head pops out from the pile. It's Snuggles, that insufferably cheerful fabric-softening bear, with his perpetual grin and a sock stuck adorably to his fuzzy ear. He opens his mouth, ready to deliver his usual saccharine pitch. "Hi, I'm Snuggles, and I—" He doesn't get to finish. The first bullet rips through his cotton-stuffed belly, sending white fluff exploding into the dryer. His plastic eyes go wide with shock as he scrambles for cover behind the laundry basket. He peeks over the edge, and the second shot takes his head clean off. His lifeless body slumps onto a pile of impossibly soft towels. This dark little fantasy, it belongs to Luke Sullivan. And while it might sound twisted, it perfectly captures the question that's haunted his entire career and drives the book we're diving into today. Hey Whipple, Squeeze This. Why do we despise advertising so much? And more importantly, how can we make it something people actually enjoy? Luke Sullivan isn't just some guy with opinions. He's an advertising legend who spent 3 decades creating award-winning work at America's top agencies. But he started out exactly where many of us did, as a kid annoyed by stupid commercials interrupting his favorite shows. His book has become the underground Bible for creative professionals everywhere. Hundreds of thousands of copies sold, translated into languages around the globe. It's not just about making ads that sell. It's about thinking differently, telling the truth, and creating work that people genuinely love. Today, we're unpacking the wisdom inside this creative masterpiece. By the time we're done, you won't just understand how to create great advertising. You'll have a blueprint for thinking more creatively about everything, telling stories that stick, and making your ideas cut through the noise. This isn't just about selling stuff, it's about learning the art of communication from someone who's mastered it. So let's jump in. Our story begins with a villain, not some comic book bad guy, but a real menace who invaded American living rooms for years. His name? Mr. Whipple. Unless you're a certain age, you probably don't know him. But for decades, he was the face of Charmin toilet paper, this uptight, finger-wagging grocer who'd constantly scold women in his store. "Please don't squeeze the Charmin." Then, once they scurried away embarrassed, he'd sneak a few squeezes himself. It was, by any measure, a terrible commercial. Annoying, condescending, painfully repetitive. People genuinely hated it. In 1970s polls, Mr. Whipple ranked as one of television's most despised characters. The agency behind him, Benton and Bowles, even had an internal mission they literally called, quote, "Killing Whipple," desperately trying to create something better. But here's where it gets weird. The campaign sold billions of rolls of toilet paper. At one point, Mr. Whipple was the second most recognized face in America, right behind the president. The campaign was irritating and patronizing, and wildly successful. This is the paradox Luke Sullivan wrestles with throughout the book. How can something so awful work so well? And why would anyone choose to create something terrible when they could make something brilliant? Back then, the answer was cynical. In a 1940s novel called The Hucksters, an ad executive spits on a boardroom table to prove a point. "You just saw me do something disgusting," he says, "but you'll always remember it." The philosophy was brutally simple. Irritate people, hammer the message home, and they'll buy your soap, or your toilet paper. To those who defended Whipple, based purely on sales numbers, Sullivan asks a pointed question: would you spit on the table to get my attention? Sure, it might work, but would you actually do it? What bothered him about Whipple wasn't just the annoyance factor. As an idea, Whipple was fundamentally empty. Sullivan couldn't imagine explaining it to his own son with a straight face. "Well, kiddo, Whipple tells ladies not to squeeze the toilet paper, but then, get this, he squeezes it himself." For years, this was the state of advertising. A parade of talking bears, miniature men floating in toilet bowls, and jingles designed to burrow into your brain like parasites. It's why advertising professionals still rank alongside used car salesmen and politicians as the least trusted people in society. But it didn't have to be this way. A revolution was brewing. Back in the 1950s, advertisers had the nation's attention on a silver platter. Television was brand new, and almost anything that appeared on that glowing screen felt magical. But as more products flooded the market, advertisers couldn't just show up anymore. They had to convince you their aspirin was better than the competition. This spawned something called the unique selling proposition, or USP. The concept was straightforward, if somewhat clumsy. Buy this product, and you'll get this specific benefit. Rosser Reeves, who coined the term, became famous for his Anacin commercials, featuring cartoon hammers pounding inside people's heads, with relief coming fast, fast, fast. It worked, but it wasn't exactly poetry, it was a sledgehammer approach. Then came the 1960s, and a man named Bill Bernbach changed everything. He founded Doyle Dane Bernbach on a radical premise: customers aren't idiots, they don't need to be lectured or bludgeoned into buying things. Bernbach believed that getting people to listen required being interesting first. He famously said, "The truth isn't the truth until people believe you, and they can't believe you if they don't know what you're saying, and they can't know what you're saying if they don't listen to you, and they won't listen to you if you're not interesting, and you won't be interesting unless you say things imaginatively, originally, freshly." This spark ignited the creative revolution. When his agency landed Volkswagen, they did something nobody had seen before. Car ads back then were flashy illustrations of massive vehicles parked in front of mansions, with glamorous women draped across the hoods. Headlines screamed things like, "Blue ribbon beauty that's stealing the thunder from the high-priced cars." The first Volkswagen ad from his agency was the complete opposite: a simple black and white photograph of the small, peculiar-looking car sat in a sea of white space. No mansion, no model, just a tiny two-word headline, "Think small." It was an entirely new voice, quiet, witty, honest. It treated readers like intelligent human beings, not marks to be conned. For the first time, an ad felt like a conversation with a clever friend, not a lecture from a carnival barker. The floodgates opened. Smart agencies everywhere realized advertising could be brilliant without being obnoxious. Viewers actually looked forward to the next hilarious Alka-Seltzer spot or clever Volkswagen ad. For one glorious decade, advertising was an art form. But the golden age didn't last. The 1970s brought economic uncertainty, and with it, a return to fear-based marketing. The accountants with their spreadsheets took over again. They brought back the shrill jingles and cheap gimmicks. Creativity was declared dead, and Mr. Whipple was back on television, selling more toilet paper than ever. This was the world Luke Sullivan entered as a young copywriter in 1979, a world locked in constant battle between inspired creativity and cold, hard data. This tension forms the landscape of his entire book. He invites us to follow Bill Bernbach's path, a way to build great brands without sacrificing anyone's dignity, where the goal isn't just to sell, but to create something so compelling that people ask, "How did you come up with that?" So how do you come up with it? How do you create something genuinely great? It starts with understanding the creative process itself. And according to Sullivan, the creative process is exactly like washing a pig. Think about it. It's messy. It follows no rules. There's no clear beginning, middle, or end. It's kind of a pain. And when you're finished, you're not entirely sure if the pig is actually clean, or why you were washing a pig in the first place. You start with a blank page. You stare at it. You stare at your partner's shoes. You give up and go to lunch. You come back, and the blank page is still there, mocking you. Your first 100 ideas are garbage. A special kind of panic sets in, that creeping horror known only to people who must produce brilliance on deadline. This continues for days. And then, completely without warning, an idea just shows up at your door, all dressed up and ready to go. You don't know where it came from, it simply appears. That, in a nutshell, is the process. A writer from the 1940s named James Webb Young broke it down into 5 steps that still hold true. First, gather as much information as possible. Read everything, ask questions, visit the factory, become an expert. Second, sit down and actively attack the problem with your mind. Third, and this is the strange part, drop the whole thing. Go for a walk, see a movie, do something completely different, and let your subconscious work on it. Fourth, eureka! The idea appears out of nowhere. And fifth, figure out how to bring that idea to life. This book focuses mainly on that second step, actively attacking the problem. Sullivan calls it a controlled daydream. It's imagination disciplined by a single-minded business purpose. And at the heart of that purpose is the brand. A brand, Sullivan explains, isn't just the name on a box or the product inside. A brand is the sum total of all the emotions, thoughts, images, history, and associations that exist in the marketplace about a company. In categories where products are essentially identical, like beer for instance, customers are literally drinking the advertising. The advertising is the brand. So how do you build a powerful brand in a world with 85,000 different items on grocery store shelves, all screaming for attention? The answer is the first great principle of this book: simplicity. Brutal, unforgiving simplicity. You must strip your brand's value down to the bone, then to the marrow, carving away until you reach one single idea. Sullivan frames it as an equation: brand equals adjective. Think about it. What does Volvo stand for? If you said safe, you've given the same answer people give worldwide. Volvo has successfully welded that one adjective to their name. It's so powerful that even when their cars aren't ranked the absolute safest anymore, people still believe they are. That's the power of owning one word in customers' minds. Porsche is fast. BMW is performance. DeWalt tools are tough. Your job is finding that one word for your brand and owning it completely. Once you have that single word, that focused strategy, you can begin bringing it to life. And that begins with the second great principle: tell the truth. Bill Bernbach's first client once told him, "I've got a great gimmick. Let's tell the truth." That advice became the foundation of the entire creative revolution. But what is the truth? It's usually not a list of facts. Facts are what clients love because they fit on charts. Milk builds strong bones is a fact. The problem? Nobody really cares. Have you ever poked your arm wondering if your bones felt soft? Probably not. The agency Goodbye, Silverstein and Partners discovered the real truth about milk. Their research found that people don't just drink milk by itself. They drink milk because it goes with things: cereal, cookies, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. The moment you realize you're out of milk for those things is a moment of genuine panic, of deprivation. From that simple human truth, one of history's most effective campaigns was born. Got milk? Facts sit on one side, truth on the other. Your job is finding that central human truth, that one thing about your product or customer that's undeniably, universally real. Sometimes the truth is a little uncomfortable. It's the elephant in the room. Great advertisers don't run from the elephant. They embrace it. That's what Crispin Porter and Boguski did for Domino's Pizza. The truth? Their customers thought their pizza sucked. So they started the campaign with commercials showing real customers saying exactly that. The crust tastes like cardboard. By admitting the problem, Domino's earned permission to tell the story of how they'd fix it. That campaign, the Pizza Turnaround, became one of the most authentic and successful in history. Domino's stock price soared. Another way to tell the truth is embracing what Sullivan calls the suck. This is where you take an obvious weakness and flip it into a strength. Think of the slogan, "With a name like Smucker's, it has to be good," or the campaign for Buckley's cough syrup, which tastes famously awful. Their commercials compared the taste to, quote, public restroom puddle, and signed off with, "It tastes awful." And it works. By being brutally honest, even self-deprecating, a brand can disarm our natural skepticism and build trust. In a world drowning in fake promises and photoshopped perfection, Authenticity has become the benchmark against which all brands are judged. So you have your simple strategy, your one adjective, you have your truth. Now how do you turn that into an idea? This is the art of concepting. Sullivan gives us an entire toolbox of techniques. He calls them mental processes, different lenses through which you can view your message. You can use only visuals. You can use only words. You can use metaphors, comparisons, or symbols. You can exaggerate or you can understate. Think back to those classic Volkswagen ads. One showed a picture of the lunar lander with the headline, "It's ugly, but it gets you there." That's comparison. Another was just a blank white page with a tiny VW logo, and the headline, "After we paint the car, we paint the paint." That's understatement. The goal is digging shallow holes everywhere. Don't settle on your first idea. Try a wide variety of approaches, and don't be afraid of terrible ideas. Sullivan says writing down bad ideas is like flushing them from your system. The only way to reach the great stuff is wading through the junk. As you work, you're looking for what he calls a smile in the mind, that little click that happens in your head when you get a clever idea. It's when the designer doesn't give you 100% of the answer. They leave a small gap for you to fill. Your brain takes a tiny leap to connect the dots, and when it does, you get a jolt of pleasure. You feel smart for getting it. One powerful way to create this click is through the architecture of your sentences, especially headlines. Consider this billboard for a lung cancer charity. For more information on lung cancer, keep smoking. The first part sets up an expectation. Your brain automatically wants to finish it with something like, "Visit our website." But the ending takes a sharp, unexpected turn that forces you to reevaluate everything. It's a structure called a paraprosdokian, and it's what comedians use to build jokes. There's tension, then surprising release. This tension and release can also happen between a headline and picture. A classic rule: if you have a clever visual, use a straight headline. If you have a clever headline, use a straight visual. Never say what you're showing, or show what you're saying. The two elements should play off each other, creating synergy where 1 + 1 = 3. A legendary Harley-Davidson ad shows a beautiful, wide-open desert road with a single motorcycle disappearing into the distance. The headline reads, "Somewhere on an airplane, a man is trying to rip open a small bag of peanuts." By itself, the picture is just a nice scenic shot. By itself, the headline is a random observation. Together, they create a powerful feeling of freedom versus confinement. That's the magic. To find these ideas, Sullivan urges staying off the computer, at least initially. Use pencil and paper. There's a direct connection between your hand and the page that helps ideas flow. Start a word list, a visual list, doodle, scribble. And when it's time to write, write a lot. If you need a headline, he says, write 100 of them, not 10, not 20, 100. Quality comes from quantity. You have to exhaust the obvious, easy ideas to reach the truly original ones. You must push past good enough and keep going until you find something great. But what if you don't just want a great ad? What if you want to build an entire world for a brand? This is where we move from campaigns to brand platforms. Sullivan says all great stories run on conflict. Without Darth Vader, Star Wars is just a kid in the desert playing with a laser sword. Conflict makes things interesting. Unfortunately, most clients want to show a happy world, where their product has already solved every problem. They want to cut straight to the happy ending. But without struggle, there's no story. A brand platform is an idea that creates other ideas. It's a world with its own rules, from which endless stories can spring. Think of it this way. A campaign is a single movie. A platform is a Hollywood franchise, like the Marvel Universe. Crispin Porter and Boguski created a brilliant platform for Coke Zero. The brief was simple: convince people that Coke Zero tastes just like classic Coke. Instead of making an ad that just said that, they created a story. They hired improv actors to play brand managers from Coca-Cola who were trying to sue their own company for taste infringement. This idea, a company suing itself, was the platform. It was a world with its own rules, the rules of the legal system. From there, they could spin off endless executions. Commercials showing the lawyers in meetings. Billboards reading, "Coke Zero tastes so much like Coke. Our lawyers have contacted our lawyers." Even a website where you could sue a friend for stealing your style. It was an idea that kept giving. Sullivan offers a simple formula to find these platforms. Truth plus conflict equals platform. First, find the truest, most undeniable thing you can say about the brand. Then find the conflicts or tensions arising from that truth. A student example he shares is for Crocs shoes. The client would say the truth is they're comfortable. But the real truth, the one everyone knows but doesn't say, is that they're ugly. So the student started there. Crocs are ugly. What's the conflict? If you wear ugly shoes, you might not be seen as fashionable or attractive. From that tension came a brilliant platform. Crocs, the world's most comfortable birth control. It's a perfect example of being what Sullivan calls wrong. Not wrong, but wrong. It's about going 180 degrees against common sense. While every other shoe brand shows beautiful people falling in love, Crocs embraces its weakness and turns it into something funny and honest. The most talked about recent example was Burger King's Moldy Whopper campaign. To prove their burgers had no artificial preservatives, they filmed a Whopper rotting over 34 days. While McDonald's showed perfect plastic-looking burgers, Burger King showed a beautiful, disgusting, mold-covered one. It was wrong, and it was brilliant. The world talked about it for weeks. This leads to another key question for any idea. Will people talk about this? In the modern world, advertising isn't just about paid media, the TV spots and billboards you buy. It's about earned media, the buzz, news coverage, and social media shares you get free because your idea is that interesting. Sullivan says, think of your idea as a press release. Is it newsworthy? Would a news channel cover it? If not, you might need a bigger idea. This is the shift from making advertising ideas to making ideas worth advertising. The perfect example is BMW's The Hire. In the early 2000s, instead of spending their budget on traditional commercials, the agency Fallon took the entire year's marketing budget and produced a series of 8 short action films. They hired A-list Hollywood directors and starred Clive Owen as a mysterious driver for hire. The hero car in every chase? A BMW, naturally. They weren't commercials. They were entertainment. Free to watch online. So many people flocked to the website, it crashed the servers. It was the birth of what we now call branded content. It wasn't an interruption, it was a destination. This is the new landscape of advertising. It's not just about making 30-second spots anymore. It's about creating content, experiences, and utility. It's about thinking like a publisher, not just an advertiser. Brands today need constant streams of interesting content on social media. They need to create things that are useful, like an app solving a customer problem, or things that are amazing, like an augmented reality experience bringing the brand to life through your phone. Take Wendy's. When the video game Fortnite introduced a food fight mode between 2 fictional restaurants, Der Burger and Pizza Pit, Wendy's team noticed that Der Burger restaurants had freezers. This contradicted Wendy's core message of fresh, never frozen beef, so they didn't run an ad. They created a Wendy's avatar in the game, joined the Pizza Pit team, and spent hours destroying every freezer in the Der Burger restaurants. They streamed it live on Twitch. Millions watched. It was an idea that didn't feel like advertising at all. It felt like part of the game. The tools are always changing, from social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram to creative technology like augmented reality and AI. But the core principles remain constant. Start with the customer. Be interesting, entertaining, or useful. Tell a simple story. Be authentic, and respect the audience's intelligence. Now let's say you've done all this. You've studied the craft, filled notebooks with ideas, and built a portfolio of brilliant campaigns. How do you get a job? Sullivan dedicates a large chunk of his book to this, because creating the work is only half the battle. The other half is protecting it, selling it, and navigating the often brutal realities of the business. He says about 20% of your time will be spent thinking up ideas. 80% will be spent protecting them. When you present work to a client, you must be prepared. Base your defense on strategy, not just on how creative or funny the idea is. You have to show how your brilliant idea solves their business problem, but you also need to be ready for your ideas to get killed. It happens constantly, often for the most irrational reasons. As ad legend Lee Clow once said, "They can't kill you, so they kill your work." The trick is not getting discouraged. Pick yourself up and come back with another great idea, and another. Success, Sullivan suggests, is simply getting up one more time than you fall. To get your foot in the door, you need a portfolio, a website showcasing about 8 or 9 great campaigns. And they can't just be ads. They need to be big, integrated ideas that live across different media. Show a print ad, sure, but also show how that idea extends to a social media activation, an in-store experience, or branded content. Your portfolio has to show an original voice. Don't play it safe. This is the one time in your career when you have no client, no budget, and no rules. Swing for the fences. Do the kind of work you wish you could do if you were already a famous creative director. When you finally get that interview, be humble, be curious. Ask smart questions. Show them you've done your homework on their agency and clients. And most importantly, show them your passion. As one creative director told Sullivan, "I'll hire work ethic over talent any day." This is a great business. It's a business where you get paid to put your feet up and think, to daydream, to talk about movies, to come up with goofy stuff. It attracts oddballs, artists, and misfits, some of the funniest, smartest people you'll ever meet. As legendary ad man Jerry Della Femina once said, "Advertising is the most fun you can have with your clothes on." But with that, fun comes responsibility. Sullivan ends his book with a powerful reminder. Don't check your morals at the door. Advertising is one of the most powerful art forms in the world. It can shape public opinion and change behavior on a massive scale. Dan Whedon's line, "Just do it," didn't just sell shoes. It helped kickstart a global fitness movement. You have a choice in the brands you work for and the messages you put into the world. In an age of climate crisis and social division, the skills of a great communicator are more important than ever. You can use your creativity to sell lies, or you can use it to champion truth. You can work for brands making the world worse, or for those trying to make it better. The choice, as always, is yours. But whatever you do, stay humble. You're lucky to be talented, lucky to be in a business that pays you to think. Remember the people in the factories and on loading docks, the ones doing real heavy lifting, and be grateful. So what can we take away from Hey Whipple Squeeze This? After journeying through decades of advertising history, from annoying 50s jingles to today's mind-bending digital campaigns, what's the core lesson? For me, it boils down to one simple, profound idea: respect. Respect for the audience, respect for the craft, and respect for the truth. The reason Mr. Whipple feels so offensive, and the reason so much advertising today feels like pollution, is that it lacks this fundamental respect. It treats us like we're stupid. It assumes our attention can be bought with loud noise or cheap gimmicks, rather than earned with compelling ideas. It interrupts us, shouts at us, and wastes our time. Luke Sullivan's entire philosophy is a rebellion against this. He, along with his hero Bill Bernabach, championed a different way, a way that believes people are intelligent, that they appreciate wit, and that they'll respond to honesty. A way that sees advertising not as a necessary evil, but as an opportunity to add something valuable to the world, be it a laugh, a new perspective, or a beautiful story. What I love most about this book is that it's not just a collection of rules. It's a mindset. It's about being relentlessly curious. It's about falling in love with a problem and exploring it from 100 different angles. It's about having the discipline to write 100 headlines, but also the wisdom to trust your gut when an idea just feels right. It's about understanding that the best ideas often come from a place of tension, of conflict, of being just a little bit wrong. In a world where technology changes every single day, it's easy to get caught up chasing the next shiny object, the new social media platform, the latest AI tool. But Sullivan's principles are timeless. Whether you're carving an ad into a stone tablet or creating a virtual reality experience, the fundamentals stay the same. Are you saying one thing? Are you telling the truth? And are you doing it in a way that's interesting? So how can you start applying this today? Here are a few simple actions. First, become a student of ideas, not just ads. When you see a movie, a meme, or a piece of art you love, don't just consume it, dissect it. Ask yourself, why does this work? What's the core conflict? What's the simple central idea? Start an idea file and fill it with things that inspire you. Second, practice the art of simplicity. Next time you have to explain something, in an email, a presentation, or just conversation, challenge yourself to distill it down to its absolute essence. Can you find the one adjective that defines it? Can you communicate your entire point in a single, powerful sentence? This is a muscle, and the more you use it, the stronger it gets. And third, embrace the suck. Next time you're working on something, give yourself permission to create a terrible first draft, a really truly awful one. Don't judge it, just get it out. By making friends with the messy, uncomfortable part of the creative process, you free yourself to reach the good stuff. That was a summary of Hey Whipple, Squeeze This by Luke Sullivan. We've touched on the big ideas today, but a summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. It can show you the major cities and the rivers, but it can't replace the feeling of actually walking the streets, meeting the people, and discovering a hidden cafe on a quiet side street. The real magic of this book is in the hundreds of examples, the funny stories, and the sheer passion coming through on every page. If any of the ideas we've talked about have sparked something in you, I urge you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just learning. It's like having a master creative director sitting next to you, cheering you on and showing you the ropes. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please hit that like button and subscribe. It tells us we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.